Okay, so hello everybody, and welcome to this session, which is with myself and the wonderful Paula Harding. And today we are going to be talking about an introduction to networking. Now, I've known Paula now for many, many years, but myself and Paula actually only met each other face to face last year for the very, very first time, and it was an absolutely fantastic experience. Brief, but fantastic.
Very
Um,
brief.
and it is really thanks to networking that myself and Paula have been able to build this relationship with each other. And I guess we support our community because we want them to network with each other, and we want to build a professional standard across what we do, and that's a shared standard by everybody, and make people feel a little bit more ease about networking, because it can be for some people quite daunting, and it very much was for me when I first started. And I know for you, Paula, networking is something that you absolutely love now, but can you remember the first time that you went networking?
Now, you see, Daniel, I've only sort of realised in the last sort of few years that networking, I remember my first networking event and how I felt. But then when I think about it, I've been networking my whole life. You know, you networking when you're back at school, you're networking when you go out into your career, or when you're out in your social clubs, or volunteering, whatever it is. It's everybody you meet, isn't it? And throughout your life. And I sort of realized, well, I have been networking all my life, really, as we all do. But my first actual event where it was called a networking event, was with Marion's PA Hub. And my friend Laura was supposed to be joining me, a bit of company. And she phoned and said, "Oh, I can't come tonight because the car's failed." And so I was really anxious, was really nervous about walking in, and I went in and I said to Marion, "I don't know anybody." And she said, "Okay." She said, "I'll find you a buddy, we'll buddy you up." And all night, just every part of me wanted to leave, and I was just nervous. And I just looked at all the people in the room and I thought, wow, they all look so competent, so professional. And I thought, I don't really know what I'm doing here at all. And I just wanted to leave, but I stuck with it. And then I left. But yeah, I just remember being really, really nervous.
Did you know what the term networking was when you first
Mm.
heard of it? Did
Yeah.
you, like it's always been applied to like a networking event.
Mm.
So what was your impression of what, I guess, what networking is when you first heard that term?
I think working as an EA, as a PA for many years before that, I assumed it was something that my bosses did, booking them into events, hearing about events they'd been to, ordering their business cards, and reading things about, the firm handshake, and building your contacts, and, following up with each other. And I just assumed, without thinking about it, it was just for bosses or managers. And I suppose, again, coming back down to the PA Hub, when they first came to Liverpool, sort of realizing it was actually for people, for all of us. And I think at the time I saw it as an opportunity to network socially. And then since that time, over, oh gosh, 7 or 8 years, I've realized that it's not, and it's so much more. But yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for me, networking, I didn't even really know what it was. And my boss, I remember I was working at the time, I was working in a hotel, and we used to get faxes through, and it was all these invitations from the local chambers and
Yeah.
local breakfast clubs, and it was all about, suddenly I'd walk into the office and there'd be like sheets of paper on my keyboard from my boss,
Yeah.
um, with all the dates on highlighted, saying go to this, go to this, go to this, go to this. And it was £20 here, £25 there, or £35 there. It was a breakfast meeting at 6 a.m. or it was a 12 o'clock lunch meeting. And I was thinking, what is this that I'm going to? I just have no idea. And I remember the first event I went to was at a hotel, and I pulled up in a car park and I had hot flushes. I didn't really know what to do. I had a shirt on with a tie and I didn't know whether my tie was looking okay. I wanted to unbutton my shirt. I was thinking, I hate when I'm speaking to people, I don't like wearing something that covers my neck because it just makes me feel really hot. And then going into that networking event, I just didn't know anyone in the room at all. And I was really drawn to this lady. It was, we still talk about it to this day. We call it a room full of grey suits. And it was just very male dominated, loads of grey suits all over the place. I was wearing a light blue suit and this lady was wearing an orange dress. And we instantly connected with each other from the other side of the room. And it was like a lifesaver. I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so glad this lady is here. And luckily, she'd known a lot of people in the room and she started introducing me to people. But I then was getting stuck about, what do I say? What I don't really know what to say to this person, because if I was in a bar or something, it'd be very social. What do I say in a professional networking environment? So I just started blurting out loads of stuff about the place that I worked and what I did, etc. And I think kind of people looked and thought, God, you're kind of selling to me here. Like, it's a bit, calm down a bit. But I didn't really know what else to say.
Yeah.
And then I just kept going and going and going. And through time, confidence was just building, building, building. But I just had no idea what networking was until I actually walked into that room that day. So it's really interesting about what people's perceptions of networking is now, considering times have changed so much as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, my perception of networking, what it was to what it is now, is so different through those experiences, like you say, and what works for me won't work for you. And we all do it differently. We all have different reasons for doing it. But my life changed, I suppose, when I started going to the International Coaching Academy with John Haynes. And his perception, his teachings of networking completely changed my approach, and the opportunities that came on the back of that were just so, just incredible. And I'm just so fortunate to have, learned from him.
Oh, absolutely. And from my experience, through networking, is the only reason the PA Forum was created was because I did through networking and enjoying it and getting to the stage where I was really enjoying connecting with people. Just had this urge to connect more people and thinking, how can I connect more people?
It's addictive, isn't it?
Yeah, and you almost are, it's this want and this kind of thirst to help others and support others. And some people do that in very different ways. Some people might, run 47 marathons in 1 year for charity, or some people might, jump out of an aeroplane, or some people might have, form a running club or do something after work. But I just think the power of connecting people is so important, and you can never place a value on that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Daniel. And that's the exact thing that John Haynes taught, was that when you go networking, be a giver. It's not about you, it's about them.
Absolutely.
You're coming into their world, and find out how you can help them. Find out what's important to them. He called it the shield of life. So, find out about their personal lives, their working lives, their hopes, their dreams, because you never know when you can help them. And it might not be that night, but you could go away months later, meet somebody and think, oh, I remember that gentleman, he was looking for somebody like, and you can connect them. And exactly as you say, that joy of connecting two people it's just beautiful.
Absolutely. And you know, for those of you watching this video, the reason myself and Paula wanted to put this together was just to share our personal experiences, but also to share some hints and tips with you that we've learned along the way. Not every networking event you go to is great. Not every networking event you go to goes well. But at the end of the day, by going itself is an absolutely massive thing, and having the confidence to be able to go is huge. But we also wanted to share some hints and tips about, it's not just about going to the event and then going back to work or going home. It's about what you do with all of that once you have been to the event, and how that can really change where you are right now. And I think myself and Paula will talk about some of our experiences and what the opportunities that have happened through networking as well. So we're going to get into first the different types of networking. So I think this has evolved over, it's particularly over the pandemic as well. I think traditionally, I've always seen networking as going out to a venue or to a location and going to network with people. And I would say since I started the PA forum, it's only really now that I've started to understand more about internal networking. And that was really for you as well, Paula, and how understanding the importance of that. So you've worked, you know, you've worked at big organizations, small organizations, etc. And I think we both said just before this that the first day when you come in, just you don't really know what to do. You might have a schedule to meet all these different people, or you might have an induction plan. But internal networking, I think, can sometimes be quite different to external networking, can't it?
I mean, if you think back to the actual purpose of the role of the assistant is to, you know, you're employed to make your executive the most effective that they can be. And when they're more effective, the business is more effective. And to do that, to really be able to do that for your executive, you need influence. And when you've got influence, you're able to access people and resources when you need them. So resources being, you know, it could be physical things, access to things, but you know, when you know people, you gain their skills, you gain their knowledge, their experiences, their connections, you know, because you know, one connection who has a connection who has a connection, and you know, and so being able to influence people through your network enables you to make your executive more effective, hence, and then the reason you've been employed in the business. So it's, you know, the second, well, not even the second you walk through the door. I mean, before, you know, in the recruitment process, it's how you behave, it's how you interact with people. How do you make people feel? You know, when you write people an email or phone them, are you being professional? Are you, you know, being, well, I say authentic. I've actually been reading about this. It's more important to be act with integrity. So if I was acting authentically, I might, you know, just be daft and be my true self. But integrity means to act, you know, the way you think is appropriate. And so anytime, whether it's an email, if it's a voice message, if it's meeting somebody face to face, you've got to act professionally. You've got to think about the impact that your behavior can have. And then every single person you meet, so whether it's the first day, if you've been there for months, or it's about building that relationship and being there, you know, not just being a taker, as I said before, you know, be a giver, help those people. And you never know when you're going to need them. But it's important to build those relationships right from the beginning, because you never know when you're going to need them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from my point of view, historically in hotels, which is kind of my background, is you have sales people here who want to do everything for the client. The client is everything. And you're like, if the client wants that, we do that. And then you have operations here who go, who on earth took this booking? Why are we doing this? And why have we said that we could do this when we can't clearly fit that many people in that room, or it's impossible to serve lunch at that time because we've got another event on in a different room, etc. And I very quickly learned the hard way that it's really important to understand how all departments work and how they work in synergy with each other. That could be from the moment somebody walks through the door of a hotel to the moment that they leave, and everything that fits in between that experience. And it's very difficult to do that if you don't understand about how other departments work. And I think that's why the rise of the internal PA network, I think, has been fantastic, because it's giving other PAs as well the opportunity to give an insight into their world and what's going on in their world at that time, and bringing all of those areas together.
That's such a great point, and I've seen some great examples of internal PA networks through social media. You know, seeing the things that they're up to, and they can really start. Yeah, there's a lady called Maria Ledson in Sony, and she just has she shares everything with her assistant community, and and when they're working together, collaboratively like that, like you said, any issues that arise, or you can phone them up, and you've got that relationship with them to be able to say, this is going on, or come on, we really need help with that, and you're more sort of, you're building those allies, aren't you?
Yeah.
So that's a really great point.
And also, I think, you know, I'm just talking from experience of going into businesses and presenting about the PA forum, for example. I can be in a room, say, of 30 PAs or EAs, or any role within executive and business support, and that long boardroom table, I can see the first probably 10 on each side are very engaged. But I can probably see the 10 at the back are probably thinking, why am I in this meeting? This has really got nothing to do with me, and it's probably not something I'm very much interested in. I think it can be challenging sometimes with internal networking to engage with those people, but I think it's very important to ensure that they are always included.
Yeah, I mean, somebody said it to me once, Daniel, and it was a bit of an aha moment. I used to put on a lot of events for assistants or share resources, and you think, because I love learning and I love sharing, you think everybody would want to come along, and when you don't sort of get sort of the turnout you hoped for, you're sort of like disappointed. And somebody said to me, but not everybody wants to do what you do, Paula. And it was a real eye opener for me, and I thought, yeah, you're right. The assistant community, you've got those who like doing what they do, and they like to go home, after work, and leave it there. And then you've got, other assistants who love learning every second they can, who love going to all the networking events, and, have to appreciate that we're all different. And so how can you add value to all of your community? So find out, I suppose it's a bit like that personality thing, isn't it? Finding out, how do you like to learn? How do you like to grow? Okay, so you're not interested in growing. So what is it that we can give you? Is it just that you want to be just know what's going on? You don't want to take part, and that's fine. You can't pressurize people, can you, to do these things?
No, absolutely. And I think the final kind of point on internal networking, I think why it's so important at the moment, is because of the ever-changing role of an assistant, and having your ear to the ground about what opportunities are there out there for you at the moment. I think we did an interview with Ben Stevenson from Bloom, and he was promoted to a chief of staff role, and he was really pushing for the chief of staff position because he realized that he needed to take the CSR for the business and really run with it, because it was going to be such a huge project, particularly working in procurement and with NHS and government third sector organizations as well. So it's about having those opportunities and being the person that is part of that network that's going to be able to hear about those opportunities as well.
I mean, there's a great saying, isn't there? It's not what you know, it's who you know. But there's quite a few of us have cottoned on to the fact that it's not that anymore. It's who knows you. So if those opportunities come up, like you just said, are you the first person that's thought of? Is your name known to the people that you work with? And And is it coming up for the right reason, I suppose? But yeah, it's who knows you. And if you
Yeah,
develop in your network, you know, you're going to be known, and then, like you say, opens up the world of opportunities.
absolutely. Well, let's talk about external networking now, because again, this can be very different. So, um, I'll use an example of when we first started the PA forum, I was very lucky to have the partnership of the local chamber, because they were really keen to promote the network and they really wanted to be able to invite people. And I remember we'd organised a venue and it was fantastic. We had this beautiful skyline view of the city, and everyone arrived in twos. So every single, like, there was two people from every company that came. There was about 40 people altogether, and it was deathly silent. And I didn't really know what to do because I thought, I can sometimes be quite overwhelming if it's in a quite quiet environment. And I'd never been to an event before where I'm normally surrounded by salespeople or account managers or, techie people or anything like that in terms of their roles and what they do. And obviously, traditionally, they would probably be in an external reaching role where they are out face to face trying to drum up business for the company.
Yeah.
And traditionally, you know, PAs are, as part of their job role, companies wouldn't necessarily expect them to go out networking, or sometimes don't understand the value of them going out and networking. But actually, there is so much value in them going out and networking. And I was just trying to bring people together just to have a chat. And suddenly the common interests, because simply they were doing the same role, and how many years they've been doing the role and where they've worked before, etc. The room just lit up and people started talking to each other. It was fantastic. But I have to say, it was probably one of the most overwhelming events that I've ever organised. But it was our first one, so it was really interesting. But I'm keen to hear from you, Paula, about your experience. What was it like? We've got networks where we can go out and network with PAs, but you also go to a lot of other networking events as well, don't you? That aren't necessarily profession specific.
That's right, and I absolutely love it because you get to meet so many different people from different walks of life, and you know, I suppose the reason I started doing it was to raise a profile of the profession, because I would go to these events and realize it was all, like you say, all like middle management or leaders, and I wanted them to know that PAs did add value in business. And but not only that, when I went to the networking events, I would hear things about what was going on in the city, and I was able to sort of bring that back into my conversations, and over time realize that being able to do that raises your credibility, because you're somebody that knows what's going on. And it just, as you said before, it becomes a little bit addictive because you think, oh, I actually enjoy finding out what's going on. And then when you talk to people at networking events and being able to connect people, like you say, and it sort of moves away from, not moves away from, but in addition to doing it for the PA profession, I found that I loved doing it for the reason that you suggested, connecting people. But I mean, for an example, last month I went to an event, was invited to, and my boss couldn't go, so I went along. But because I'd been in his meetings, because I knew what was important to him, I got there, and you're a little bit nervous, aren't you? You think nobody will talk to me, and I saw this gentleman, and I went, "Oh, hi, who are you? Tell me all about yourself." And John Haynes always used to say, if you don't know what to talk about, the person who asks the questions is in control.
Mhm.
So I'm like, "Who are you? What do you do? Tell me all about." And then finding out about him, I just looked at him and I was like, my executive would love you. He would love to listen to what you've just told me. And I said, you're so similar, and similar objectives. And he was like, and he was really interested. So I connected the two of them. And now there's sort of a continuing journey with that. But it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have took the time to be interested in what his life was about.
Yeah.
So I didn't just go, oh, hi, where do you work? Oh, isn't this a great event? I was curious and I found out about his background.
Yeah.
And it's just so many different examples of
I
finding
think
out about people.
absolutely. And I think what we were saying about internal networks is that the external networking benefits your internal network because, for example, I get people all the time say to me, I know, I'll ask Dan, Dan will know somebody, Dan will know somebody. And sometimes I don't know that I don't know somebody, or I do, and I'm not quite comfortable recommending that person because I might not really
Yeah.
personally know them.
Or you can say, I don't know somebody, but I may know somebody who knows somebody.
100%, absolutely. And so it's the value of the external network also that you bring back internally, and exactly what you said, Paula, it's finding out about exciting initiatives or things that are going on in the city that you or your local area, or things that your company might be able to get involved with, or but I mean, the word now I hope has kind of disappeared, but traditionally people would always use the word gatekeeper for PAs, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Many
yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
And imagine you're doing your role, you're getting phone calls coming in, people are wanting to connect with your executive and you're protecting their time and their space.
Mm.
But at the same time, you've come back from a networking event, know that the person that you've spoken to would be of real interest, introduce them to Sid, and Sid has absolutely loved the conversation, and it might have developed into other things, which is fantastic.
I mean, it's funny you should mention gatekeeper. The reason I met Sid was through a competition, and then I went on his podcast, and he said, "Oh, EA, he said you're gatekeepers, aren't you?" And I was like, "Oh no, we're not gatekeepers. As I we're facilitators. We allow the flow of communication."
Love
So we went off on my little EA platform,
that.
and
Love that.
but and that's such a great point. You have to be that person that allows the people in that you think are important to the business, but only by talking, being involved in the business and listening and being curious and knowing what's important. Can you, when you go out networking, can you find out the opportunities that are important?
Yeah.
You don't go out specifically looking for them because you don't know when they're going to appear, but it's being ready and open to facilitate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just going back to when I did that event with two people come in, that can be good because it's comfortable, but it also can have the opposite effect, I think, as well, because when you come to a networking event with somebody it's very easy for 2 hours to fly by really quickly, and you're having a catch up over a glass of wine, and you
Yeah,
can be stood in a room with hundreds, or 50 people around you and not even speak to anybody else. And the whole purpose then of going to that event, whilst it's amazing to catch up with the person that you've gone to the networking event with, it kind of defeats the object really of going to the networking event. Do you agree, Paula?
see, I always have, well, I used to have, I don't tend to sort of count anymore, but because it's more natural now. But when I first used to go, and I would be a bit nervous, I think, right, I'm going to make one new connection this time. I'd always have an aim, and I think I would force myself to go and talk to somebody new. And over time, that sort of, I don't think about that anymore. I just look being around different people, but always making the effort to make the most of, not make the most of my time, but I'm going to an event, make the most of the opportunity. But I was at an event the other night. It was just the noisiest networking event I've ever been to, and I'd arranged to meet up with an EA who was back over from Dubai for a couple of weeks, and I hadn't seen each other for years, since before COVID. And then I got invited to this networking event, and I was like, oh, I'm going out with my friend. So I invited her. I said, do you want to come? So we went, and to begin with, we were catching up, and then I could see different people I met. And then I'd like, come on over, and then I think this is such and such, and this is where she's working. And, and it's about bringing them into the conversation and enabling them to sort of be part of, that sort of, that networking group. And it's not being, what's the word? not controlling, I'm not sure what the word is, but don't hold on to your contacts, share them freely. And so what if they end up working with that person? That's great. That should be celebrated. You've enabled that to happen. And
Yeah.
you don't know if the connections they go on to make together will come full circle and help you. You just don't know.
Well, it's interesting because Paula connected me with Nick Elston from Forging People, who, and she instantly said to me, "You are going to love Nick. I just know that you're going to get on with each other so well." I had one call with Nick, absolutely hit it off. He did 10 sessions for PA Forum last year. We've already got another 10 sessions with him again this year. He's just like a big cuddly bear that we all love. And yeah, and our members absolutely love him. And because of that introduction, Paula, I spoke to him yesterday, and he is now speaking at the PA show in London because of the work that he's been doing with the profession and the community, which it just goes to show, doesn't it, that full circle that you've introduced him to me. I didn't introduce him to the PA show, but he's had that conversation with them, and he's now going on to have, he's done some work with the Midlands Air Ambulance, who approached me. They were looking for a speaker around that topic, and it's just that bounce, isn't it?
I mean, and you see that now, that all comes back down to how you make people feel. So I met Nick quite a few years ago, again before COVID. I was on this journey of learning and growing, and I was getting into public speaking, and I saw that Nick was doing this one day speaking event. So I went down to Bristol to go on his course, and I was nervous. I wasn't confident public speaking. I walked in the room. There's Nick. You know what he's like. He's tall. He always has the baseball cap on, and he goes like this, and he gives you the biggest hug, and instantly I felt wanted, cared for, safe. He had his country music blasted on his music player. He was funny. I just loved the day with him. And I went away, and then every time somebody said, "Oh, I need some speaking training," it was, "You got to go to Nick. You got to go to Nick." And that was because the way he made me feel.
Yeah. And it's interesting how that feeling, how he's made you feel, has gone on then. And if we take it back to what we were saying at the beginning, about that need and want, and that amazing feeling to help other people, that feeling that he's given you has cascaded through so many other people as well, which is just amazing. And I think I just want to go back to the point that you said about, when there's two people in the room and you're bringing somebody with you. For those of you watching who, you might have attended a few events before, you could be that person that makes that difference to that person who's never been to a networking event before, by just bringing them in and making them feel comfortable and introducing them to the people that you know. And you could completely transform their networking experience in the click of a finger.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's move on to virtual networking, which is quite new. I probably say is relatively new, but I feel like obviously there's been Skype, and there's, Zoom existed before the pandemic, although I'd never heard of it personally, but or I'd never really had virtual meetings. I've never really worked for a big organization or a global company that required that sort of communication, across the pond or anything like that. So virtual networking for me was totally new. Like, I'd never done it before. Well, what about you, Paula? Was it something that was quite new to you as well?
I remember when I worked at the time before COVID, we'd have meetings, wouldn't we? And if we had to, as an EA, if you had to bring somebody in from abroad to the meeting, you'd have to join them on a virtual call. And all of us, all the EAs in the company, we dreaded it, because the tech would never work, and we'd have to book in IT to at the start of the meeting to come and help us. You'd lose them halfway through, and because you're the EA, everyone would go, "Well, can you not just sort it?" And we weren't, tech experts, or we just press the buttons the same as everybody else, and so it was a bit of a nightmare. And then through COVID and that, we all became facilitators, didn't we? Every single person in the meeting was experiencing the struggles and having to use the tech. But I suppose, again, through learning from John at the International Coaching Academy, you know, the most important part is enabling everybody to have a voice. You know, a lot of people aren't confident talking in a group of people, are they? And, you know, if you've got the same people talking, and it's very hard online, isn't it, to know when the right time to talk is, because sometimes the timing's slightly out, and you make it start talking when they're still talking. And so it's about those social cues, isn't it? And being a bit more respectful, being a bit more patient, being a bit more listening. But also, if you think somebody's been a bit quiet and you think they could add a lot of value, it's bringing them in. So is there anybody else who's got an opinion? Or Sarah, for example, you know, I've heard you talk about this before. Could you just give us a little bit more on that? Yeah. And it's just, and if they say no, then leave them, you know, if they're not confident. Yeah. But it's just being aware what's going on in the room, and if it's too much one-sided, how, again, bringing people into the conversation. That's what I do. And
100%. I think virtual networking is a great place to start if you are a new networker, because I think a lot of people have said to me in the past that it's almost like this protection. This screen is almost like a protection. You know, you walk into a room full of people, it can be very overwhelming. But when you've got people that are on screen and they're engaging with something, you might think, oh, I don't really want my camera on today. That's fine. But I'll just put a hello in the chat box. And that could just be where it starts. And then that hello, once you see, you know, you're engaging people on screen, but you're also engaging the chat box, encourages then you think you can see the conversation flowing between people, and you think to yourself, well, next time I might go on, I might have my camera on, but I'll be on mute. Yeah, I'm going to carry on with the chat box, And then I think from the chat box, I always think you can instantly see when people put, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. I agree with you. That's happened to me. Or those moments for me, I think to myself, you've instantly made a connection with somebody that you instantly got something in common with, because it might be something that was said in the chat box, or it could be how you related to that session or the content. And, you know, I think it's really important to then, you know, link in with that person after the event and maybe connect with them, send them a little message and just say, oh, that session was great. Or even if the session wasn't great, that session wasn't great, but I saw that you'd written about this and I completely agree with you. I just wanted to say hello and introduce myself. You know, it was great to see you on the call today. And instantly it's a connection that could have been made just by being in the chat box on a session, for example.
That is genius, Daniel. You know, I wasn't going down that road at all, and you're absolutely right. And the other thing about that, and we'll come on to it with social networking, is your comments are just as invaluable in the chat. So whatever you're saying, I say this carefully, yes, you've got to be professional, but yeah, mix with your authenticity. But you know, people are reading what you're saying and they'll remember you. So for example, say you've got a PA network online and you're acting unprofessionally, say for a job comes up and then you apply for it and somebody might remember you from acting unprofessionally in the chat box. It's a bit extreme because nobody I've ever seen acts unprofessionally in a chat box, but it's but also you can raise your credibility. So adding valuable comments or adding support or sharing information, you know, you can raise your credibility that way too in the chat box. That's a really, really great point. But one thing I don't know if you know, Daniel, different platforms, if you send somebody a private message, the event organizer can read them sometimes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I have seen it happen a couple of times when I've organised an event and I thought, oh, I can see the private comments, and but I don't know if it's true because I've not looked into it properly. But I would just say, careful what you're writing in the private comment. Try it next time you're having a meeting. Send
I didn't know that, but if there's a setting in a button I need to click to do it, I'd love to. But also, I think it is, the private message function actually is really good, because it is that, if you see somebody on the screen, you might have seen that person, an email come through from that person in the past, and you think, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's you're on the screen, and I've been talking to you on email for years. I didn't know it was you. And, just utilize, we're very lucky with virtual networking, because you tend to have someone's name on the screen. You tend to be able to understand what their networking style is like. So whether they do like to be, they do like to hold the room or talk, which is fine. But then you might be, those people that might be slightly more introverted might be more on your wavelength, and you might think, oh, actually, I'd really love to grab a coffee with you. Let's talk about the session that we've just been to. Yeah.
Coming back to virtual networking, being similar to social networking, is, on virtual networking, you have access to so many more people. So, for example, I do the BBOPA network online events. And I mainly started going because my parents are from Buckinghamshire, and that's sort of the reason I got into it. But then I just fell in love with everybody. But you've got people on that network who aren't from Buckinghamshire. Like, I'm from Liverpool. You've got people from different all around the country, and you wouldn't be able to do that if it was physical. You wouldn't get to meet those people. And and whilst virtual networking has its pros and cons, that's one of the pros. You get to see so many different types of people, and that's one of the reasons I love doing it.
Yeah, 100%, Paula, 100%. I think social networking, if we touch on that now, is, social networking can be very different. I'll give you an example of this. We've got a particular networking group in Birmingham. So if they're watching this, they'll know who it is. But they have lunch, and after lunch, they can all be sat on the table and everyone's talking to each other, having a lovely time. But lunch could finish at 2, but they're still out at 11 o'clock at night, and that becomes a very social network. But actually, that is where the real relationships are really built, because your barriers are down. Obviously, if you do drink and you've had a tipple or two, sometimes you can loosen up a little bit, sometimes a little bit too much. But it is understanding the balance of whether it is a social event with friends or a social networking event where you are still really representing yourself, your personal brand, and the company that you work for. And kind of understanding where those boundaries are sometimes, I think, as well, because some people can push those boundaries with you as well. Sometimes to, maybe encroach on your space a little bit too much, or maybe you're with somebody and you really aren't gelling with them, but you can't really move away from them because you don't know how to kind of get out of that situation. And that can happen sometimes in a social environment. It can be quite difficult, very different experience, I think, socially.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'd put that into sort of different categories. Social being, my friends who have got nothing to do with any work I'm involved in, or networks, like, I would act a different way. If it was social people I worked with, I might have a drink and then leave it at that, and blah blah blah. But if I'm at a networking event where I'm going either representing myself or the company, or I never drink. And that's because I do get a little bit silly once I've had a drink. And I remember going to an event, a PA event. This was like many years ago. I think it might have even been for the PA hall. It was a social night. You got invited as a PA to a social, an opening of a hotel or something. And I couldn't believe it. It was free drink, free food, and I had a few glasses of champagne with the girl I went with, and there was cakes, and I love cakes. And I just remember having a black dress on, and I was eating the cakes, and all the powder was down my dress. And I just walked away, and I felt ashamed of myself. And I thought,
oh no.
Well, yeah, I just thought, God, if anybody sort of remembered that night, I was, and and I just sort of vowed then, like, when I'm need to act professionally. I'm not drinking, because you just don't know. But you know, horses for courses, isn't it? Everything works for different people, and some
But
people need a little bit.
yeah, I think we also sometimes don't appreciate that we are actually socially networking. You could be part of a sports club, you could be part of, your kids could be part of scouts, or you could be part of the guides, or you could be training for a marathon, or you might be just running in the park or cycling a bike or whatever. And social networking actually comes in everyday things that we do. And so I think sometimes, we don't tend to look at those opportunities sometimes as networking, but it's just going back to what you said at the beginning of this session, Paula, was that we network every day, and sometimes we don't even know that we're doing it.
Exactly. And one thing is, it's exactly what you just said. It's everyone you meet, everyone you know already, and everyone new that you're going to meet. And learn from everyone and everything. Always be curious about people.
Yeah.
You never know where it's going to lead.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about preparation then. So we're going to go to you're going to you know that you've got this networking opportunity coming up, and it could be either a virtual event or it could be an in-person event. I personally think the preparation for either is pretty much the same. There are some differences, but I think it is so important to be prepared and to have the things with you that will make a difference to your networking experience. So, for example, one of the things that baffles my mind slightly is I always had business cards, like you were just saying before at the beginning of the call, Paula, so that if I kind of had a connection with somebody and I really wanted to keep in touch with them, I could give them my business card. But we very quickly realised when I started the PA forum that a lot of PAs don't have business cards.
Yeah, it's shocking, really, the amount of EAs that don't have. And I think that's double-sided. I think, one, perhaps they don't feel like they should, so that perhaps they don't ask.
Yeah.
But then there are organisations, and I've been in them myself, who did not see the value of EAs having business cards. So when I've worked for companies like that, I always printed my own.
Yeah.
At my own cost, because it was too important for me not to have them. But nowadays you've got all the different tech, haven't you? You can connect with people on LinkedIn via the scan code,
Yeah.
or making a note of people's emails and stuff. But also, before you go to an event, have a look. If you can see the attendees list, or if you're on social media and you can see people who are going, look them up, do your research on them, find out a little bit about them. Because when you get to meet them, you'll be able to say, oh, I've seen you've been doing this, and then showing that bit of interest in people sort of raises your credibility a little bit as well. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other suggestion I would say is ask the organizer if they've got a delegate list, because if they have got a delegate list and people have agreed, you don't share their personal details, but at least you could share the name of the person, maybe the organization that they're from, providing they've agreed for you to do that. That's a really good way to see, oh, I didn't realize so and so was coming, or I'd love to talk to that person because actually I'm looking for something at the moment, or I've seen that person on LinkedIn, I'd really love to speak to them. And instantly go up to the organizer or speak to the organizer and say, I would really love to be connected with tonight this person. Is there any way that you can connect me? Because chances are they've met them before, they come into the room, they know what they look like, or they might be coming on screen, etc. And they can politely ask if they can connect you, or make that introduction for you, which I think would be really good. And most organizers, providing that people are happy for them to do that, and you find that people networking are generally happy for you to do that, because that's the whole purpose of them coming networking, to meet other people. And so it's not giving each other's email addresses or anything, but my other piece of advice would be that LinkedIn, like you said, Paula, about connecting on LinkedIn, is when you're working for an organization, they don't own your network. You own your own network. So if you decide to move on and you go somewhere else, LinkedIn is amazing because it is your network. It's the network that you've built. And just from my own past experience, I've had challenges leaving companies because they feel that they own this network. And that's why I've now become self-employed, because I got to the point where I wanted people to understand that it wasn't, these are people that I've met and I've built relationships with, and these are people that I want to be taking with me wherever I go. And it's not a case of asking them not to use you or not to use your services, but they've got the relationship with me.
I think, and you're absolutely right, Daniel. I think it's understanding your organisation and finding out what their policies are when you join. There are organisations out there who, when you're on social media, you have to use the company branding, and so it's finding it out, the boundaries from the start, and then you'll not get into any of that difficulty then when you're leaving. But one thing I'd say about what you've just said then is, I have a friend in America called Jackie, and an amazing EA, and whenever she goes to training events, she always writes to the speakers ahead of time, and she, tells them why she's looking forward to their sessions, and quite often she'll meet up with them the night before and go for coffee or for dinner. And she really starts to sort of build that relationship with them. And then now she's got any difficulties, she's able to reach out to them, or she can connect people, or she can recommend them for different events. And they've had her speaking at different events because she's built that relationship with them. So there's so many sort of opportunities from taking the initiative to meet up with people before you go to an event, just like you say. And somebody's advertising an event, just read through the comments, see who said, oh, I'm going, I'm looking forward to this, and then send them a message. I see you're going to that event, I'll see you there.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really important what's your view on arriving early, on time, or fashionably late, Paula? What's your view on that?
I don't really have a plan for that. I usually just arrive when I arrive. But to begin with, I would never get there early because I was really nervous. So I would wait until it was a bit full, and then sort of blend in a little bit. But now I'm confident. I'm quite happy to walk into a room and be the first one there. And but I think, because I work from home now as well, Daniel, if I go to any events in Liverpool, it's all about what time I can get away. And I had to give up quite a lot of networking events because the job I'm in now is quite busy. But you still make the effort where I can. And sometimes I could be working all day and I think, oh, I've got that event tonight, I could really do without it. But I know I'll miss an opportunity. And I always think I'm making the effort. And so I go, and then I come away buzzing. I'm so pleased I went and saw the benefit of it. So it's really hard when you're working from home to muster up that sort of.
Yeah.
Back out again.
100% agree with you. And there's been times, Paula, where I've walked in and I've been shoved onto the kind of outside of the event and found it so hard to penetrate the event and get in, that there's been times where I've stood there and thought, why am I here? This just really isn't an event for me. It's just not, I just don't feel comfortable. And if I don't feel comfortable, I'm just not going to be able to be my authentic self. I think so. I never used to do this, but I'll give you an example. So Hannah Gray from the Office Management Group, she launched in West Midlands the other day, and I was like, I'm going to get there early. And okay, I do know Hannah, but what I've decided to do this year is I'm going to get to a networking event 10 minutes before it starts, purely because I want to go over to the organizer and say, can I help you with anything? Is there anything I can do to help you? Because I think the organizer, sometimes you could be putting name badges out and you might be rushing ahead of time, or the room might not have been set up right and you're trying to organize something else, and just having that extra pair of hands sometimes can be really good. And then what you find is when you're in the room, when the next person comes in, you're automatically the first person they're going to speak to. And actually, it's really great because you've instantly got someone to talk to, and then somebody else comes in and they don't want to be on their own. So what they do is they come and join you. So it's like a tripod of people. Then it's kind of triple.
Oh, got it like that. That's brilliant. Then.
because I found ever since the pandemic, I've lost my confidence, I think, a lot more going to the bigger networking events and trying to walk into the room when it's really busy. I've found it more difficult. So I've tried to flip it on its head this year and think, right, if I am going to go out networking, why don't I try and do that and then see how that works? And it worked really well at the office management group. I really enjoyed it, actually. And so I thought I'm going to try that again this year and see how that works.
I've not heard it said like that before. And see, I'm never stop learning, Daniel. I might try that myself. But what I tend to do is if I walk in and I can't see anyone on their own to talk to, I'll go up to somebody I know and I sort of touch them on the arm like that. And I'll say, I know you're talking, just wanted to say hi. And they'll quite often say, oh, come and join us.
Yeah.
So I don't go.
The circle culture, isn't it? Because easily 4 or 5 people can instantly form a circle. And it's hard to break into that circle, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'll just tap them on the shoulder or just say, hi, just want to say hi. I know I can see you're busy and I'm just going to go over here. And they'll go, oh, no, come and talk to us. Or, it doesn't always happen, but just to sort of give you that sort of confidence to not go in and say, can I join this conversation? It's not just, hi, I'm here, just want to say hello. And
yeah, absolutely.
And being respectful that you're not interrupting what they're talking about.
And the other thing is if you're with somebody and you've been with them since the beginning, because you're that first person they've met in the room, is you might see somebody else come in and just want to think, I'm just going to go and help that person, just going to get that person a drink. And it's just a nice way to kind of, once they're with a group of people, leave that group of people and move over towards somebody else that's kind of coming into the room and just grab that glass of Prosecco and just be like, can I get you this drink? And I love doing that because it's not rude. You're just just shows that you're helping other people that are coming into the room while those people now feel quite comfortable with themselves, hopefully.
I absolutely agree with that, Daniel. That's brilliant. But I also have the opposite view.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm talking to somebody, that time is about them.
Yes.
So I'm giving them my full concentration. I am listening to them. I'm not looking about what else is going on or who else is in the room. And so what you're doing is you're making that person feel heard, let them feel valued. And whether that's the only person you talk to that night, you've made that difference for that one person.
Yeah.
So I agree both ways on that way. I think absolutely you do have to say, oh, there's such and such, come over and talk to us, but if they're telling you something that's important to them, make sure
100% agree, Paula. So I think I was probably talking more from a hosting side of things.
Oh yeah, no, and I agree. It's important to bring different people into absolutely, but those moments when it's a little bit, having a bit of a difficult time at work, really taking that time to say, okay, tell me about that, tell me some more, and and just really sort of being there for them.
No, I agree. And I think it's I find it hard sometimes because somebody could be talking to me and you can have sometimes that person that goes like they're waving behind them and like, are you okay? Like and you're trying to give that person your full attention. You can see they're there and you're trying to acknowledge them, but it's a real important moment that you just don't think you can go, oh my God, hello, it's just not the right moment. So I think sometimes look for that as well. If you are coming into a room, just be mindful of that, because if somebody is really deep in conversation and talking about something really important, it's quite hard when people are excited to see you, which is great, but it can be quite hard because you don't want your eyes to be kind of flickering away from them because they're thinking, oh, what are they looking, what's happening behind me?
I mean, you could always be truthful and you could say, look, John, somebody's looking at me, just give me 1 minute to go over and say hello, and then I really need to come back because this is too important not to talk about. Or it's just sometimes being a bit honest, just saying, I'm awfully sorry, somebody's waving at me, what was you saying?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And I think it's hard now really when you go to a networking event. I think for me, I just kind of think about, I need to wear clothes that I feel comfortable in, but I need to look as professional as I can. There was a conversation come up the other day about, have we changed that now since we've come out of the pandemic? what do you wear to a networking event anymore? Because some people are working from home. Do you wear smart casual? Are you in business attire? What do you wear for a conference nowadays? And I thought that was a very interesting question. I haven't worn a suit since I've left, except for an awards night, for example, or a wedding. And I found it really strange actually not doing that. But it is a professional image, isn't it, of what you're portraying?
It's always important to find out from the organizer what the dress code is.
Mhm.
And usually they'll say, oh, there isn't one, just, and then, then you've got the freedom. If you've been before and you know the types of things people wear, then, are you
Yeah.
going to feel comfortable wearing what they're doing? But for me, if I'm going to a networking event, I've usually got a dress on, because that's how I feel represents me and my brand, the persona I want to put out there is that, if somebody wanted to invite me somewhere, oh, Paula will turn up and she's smart.
Yeah.
Might not say that, but in their head they'll think, I don't know, it's just, for me, it's about just having that, it just makes me feel confident.
Yes.
Like I'll blend in, like, I don't know, it's important to do what works for you, exactly like you say, Daniel. If
Oh,
I'm going
trust me, Paula. If there was an option for me to wear a dress at a networking event, I would absolutely. I'm struggling now to get into clothes. I'm like, oh my goodness me. But no, I think it's important to wear, I'll never forget I went to a networking event once and I must have worn the same pair of trousers. I've got these pattern trousers and I must have worn them 3 times, that this man had seen me all 3 times. And he came up to me and went, have you got any other clothes? And I was like, what do you mean? Luckily, we know each other very well, but I was absolutely mortified. So I made sure when I knew he was going to be at this event that I was going to, that I did not wear the same trousers again.
put them on and good.
Absolutely. But I think to going on to the next slide now, so follow up, engage, and consistency is really important. So I think we've talked about before the networking event the different types of networking event we can go to. We talked about some hints and tips while you're at the networking event, but it doesn't stop when you walk out that door. If it can do, but the follow up for me is so important. Do you agree, Paula?
I think so many different angles for this, Daniel. One, from a friendly point of view, it's nice just to say, it was so lovely to see you last night. I found what you said on XYZ really inspirational, or it was just lovely to see you. It's been so long, let's catch up again. That sort of friendly sort of catch up. And then there's the other ones, aren't there, that really enjoyed what you were saying last night. I've got some connections I've been thinking about, and these people might be important for you, or I was really interested in what you said last night, can we explore that a bit more, potential collaboration, or just sort of, and remind them, perhaps if it was a room full of people, I was the one that was talking to you about, XYZ. And but think I heard this once from you, Daniel. You were doing some training with a company, I've forgotten what they were called. But you said, if you've not spoken to somebody for a couple of weeks, couple of months, reach out to them and just give them a how are you call.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we haven't been in touch for a while, just checking everything's okay with you. Is there anything I can help you with? And, again, you don't know what opportunities that will open up, because you do forget about people. And unless they're in your feeds, for example, on social media, or they're in your network events, you do tend to forget about people. And people will forget about you, not because they don't like you, just life goes on, doesn't it?
Well, also on social media, if you haven't interacted with their posts, then they tend to disappear off your feed. So sometimes it's nice just to click to search for that person, maybe click and just read some of the things that they've been doing, maybe just liking or commenting or sharing or whatever you'd like to do, because it just brings that person back into the fold and you can read the things that they're doing. And and I find it really interesting that sometimes I post something, Paula. We're doing an event at the moment, and I could post something and a lot of people will book onto that, but they've not necessarily liked or commented on the post, which isn't the whole point of it. But I think to myself, if those people that did come liked and commented on that post, it would actually open that post up a lot more to people in their networks that won't have seen it. And I think that's what's really important. It's about that spreading the information further, whether that be with an article of interest that you'd like to send to somebody. It could be somebody that might be looking for a new role and you see a job opportunity come up for them. It could be like we've got Goldman Sachs moving to Birmingham, so there's lots of opportunities there. It could be that you know somebody working in a different company that might want information on that, or a new venue that's open somewhere, or a conference that you're organising, or anything like that. And it's just about supporting each other. And I think it's really interesting how that kind of opens up a world as well.
I could talk for hours about that as well, Daniel. I mean, if you organise an event, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get. So when you're organising an event, if you're doing emails, you ask people to share it on social media, give them your handles, give them your hashtags, because some people just don't think, but if you ask, oh, okay, I'll do a post about that, or I'll share it on post. And just giving people that little bit of a prompt to share it, that's one sort of point. The other, exactly, if you like or comment on a post, it'll get far more reach. And you know, we're all into this stronger together sort of movement of supporting each other. A lot of people will go through LinkedIn, social media, and think, well, there's nothing there for me. But really, you can add so much more value. Even if you don't want to post, you can add so much more value just by liking a post, sharing it. And also, if you're adding comments into a post, people will get to see what you think. So if you're not somebody that wants to share their thoughts on a post, you can add your comments in somebody else's post, and you're more likely to be seen by all those people who are following that post. So it's just getting involved and really realizing that your voice, your time spent can really have an impact on those around you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God, Paula, we could do this. We could literally do this all night, couldn't we? But I think so. Before we wrap up the session, I think, Paula, was there anything that you kind of wanted to add? You know, in the things that we've covered, I think we've covered a lot tonight, which is fantastic. But was there anything that we've missed? Is there anything that you wanted to add?
For me, you know, if I could summarize it, it's about being authentic, or at the same time acting with integrity, taking those first steps if you're not confident, and really being somebody who's a giver. You know, it's not about you, it's about them. So being there for people, and you'll come to love it, and you'll just want to do it more and more. This is a bit of old-fashioned advice here, Daniel, but you know, about giving a handshake and look people in the eye when you meet people.
Yeah.
And, and you'll be surprised about the number of people that haven't heard that advice, but it is very old-fashioned. But whenever I get a weak handshake, people don't look me in the eye, it's not that I'm disappointed at them. I think, you don't know the rules of the game. You know, do you know what I mean? You don't know that this is a really important part of our interaction. You know, when you get a firm handshake from somebody, if they look at you know they're in the moment. You know, they know the game.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely. And I think eye contact, like you say, it's just so important, because it just shows that you're engaged with that person, and you're not shaking their hand, looking around the room, thinking, where am I going next, and moving on. You're just, you know, it's that moment with that person, I think, as well.
the other thing, I heard it years ago from somebody, was when you meet somebody, don't say I'm pleased to meet you, because you don't really know if you are. So instead you say, how do you do?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Well,
So just changing your language a little bit.
absolutely, Paul. And I think if we on our PA Forum website, I'll never forget, there was a video from our very first conference 6 years ago, and there's a section of that video where Lucy Brazier says something really important, and she said, these events are here for a reason, and the best advice that I can give you is go to events. Go to the events, go and network, go and build your relationships with people, go and build your network. And that has stuck with me for a very, very long time, because she's absolutely right. There's so much opportunity to go to so many different things, and you could only, you might go to one thing a month or one thing every quarter or whatever, but it's still something, and it's still keeping that consistency and going out there and your presence when it's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said right at the beginning, Daniel, what works for me, what works for you, won't work for someone else, and you just got to try different things. And if you're somebody that doesn't like it, then you've tried.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I've got a little bit of a challenge. So I'm very lucky that I work with committee members that support PA Forum, and they are just like a fountain of knowledge of information for me, which is amazing. But I said to them, what if you all went away and connected with one PA on LinkedIn every week? Just one PA, and you sent them a message and said, lovely to be connected with you on LinkedIn. I'd just love to be able to be part of your network. Opens up an opportunity for them. And that is 52 new connections every year. And through 52 new connections every year, you're over 3 years building a huge network of people, whether that be from your local area or beyond. What I would suggest is have a chat with those people, and maybe put in 20 minutes in the diary for a coffee catch up with that person or with somebody, either bi-weekly, if you have time, weekly, and just spend 20 minutes on a virtual call getting to know them, telling them about some of the events that you're going to. Maybe they'll tell you about some of the events they're going to, tell them, get to know them, something about them, ask them personal questions, and you will naturally grow your network through all those different connections and those recommendations. So that would be my challenge for you. And if you're watching this, I'd love you to be able to do it and to be able to tell us how you get on.
That's so lovely, Daniel. And if anybody connects with me, Daniel, the first thing I do when I accept them is I send them a message and I say, thank you for connecting.
Mhm.
And realizing that it's not just soulless, we're finding out how you can help each other. Or I think that's lovely challenge, Daniel.
Fab.
But
Well, Paul, sorry.
one thing, the thing with LinkedIn and that is you've got access to people all over the world. Now, when I first started my career, you couldn't just rock up to somebody's building and say, hi, can I have some advice? Gosh, there's people all around the world who will talk to you, who will, if they do a post and you're not quite sure what they mean, you add a comment, they'll talk back to you.
Yeah.
You've got access to so many people. It's just amazing.
It's that, and I think, culturally and, educationally, it's just opened up a world of opportunity. You can see what's going on with people in similar positions as you, or opportunities that are anywhere around the world. So please embrace networking if you can. To take your time, do it at your own pace. It's your own journey, it's your own story. But I think myself and Paula wanted to come on today because we just really wanted to say that networking can be great, and if you enjoy it, it can be even better. So we hope that you've taken some little hints and tips away from this, and we can't wait to see what happens with your own journey. And I just want to say a massive thank you to you, Paula, for your time. It's been wonderful to spend this with you. So thank you so much.
I absolutely loved it, and I've learned quite a few new things from you there, Daniel, as well. So
As I have from you, Paula, always. Never stop learning. Thank you so much, everyone.